Hello everyone, it's me, Mel. Are you ready to paint? Today we are painting Ocean of Dreams. It's got that rose gold pastel sky and a little shimmer of metallic gold in that sun. And then we've got this whole ombre of beautiful teals and turquoise coming down through our waves. But the best part is when we take our paint pens and create all those patterns. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So we've got this really sweet little sky and our shiny little sun, but then all of our waves are different patterns, and we're going to use a paint pen just like a marker, and essentially it's like doodling. It's sort of like if doodling and a mandala had a baby, you might end up with some pattern like this. It's really relaxing. Surprisingly, it's really appealing to folks that are a little bit type A and want to be neat and meticulous, because these patterns just let you go deep down that rabbit hole. But the painting itself is relatively simple. So let's go through the materials that we're using today, and then we'll get started. All right, I've got my little plastic palette here. Whoop, let's get it in frame. Okay, we are going to start off with some white, and then I've got 2 puddles of white. I often do that when I'm doing 2 different tones in the background. That way I have a clean pile in case one gets dirty. So I'll use one to mix up the sky, and then I'll use another one to work on the teals for the sea. We've got some blue and green for our ocean. We've got some gold for our sky, and then just a little tiny touch of red. So none of these puddles are very big. I think that these little wells are about the size of a quarter. So we're not using a lot of paint. We're going to use a lot of water with our acrylic today, sort of create a wash that'll help with the texture of our waves. So get yourself set up. Let's see, what else have we got? Oh, paint brushes, 2 brushes. We really only need one. Whoops, we really only need this guy, my handy dandy 1/2-inch flat, and we'll use that to paint the entire painting. I am going to throw in this small, let's see, there we go. This small 1/2-inch flat, just in case you want to do any little detail work on your waves with some white paint. And you know, I think that if you're a little more comfortable getting lines with a small brush, then you know, use what works for you. All right, what else we got? A cup of water, cool water, so the hot water doesn't melt our glue in our brushes. And let's drop those in there. Got my paint rag so that if I need to wash and dry my brushes, this one's really old and getting kind of stiff and crusty. And we've got our white paint pens. These are just acrylic white craft paint pens. And we don't need these yet, we'll use them later on. So let's get busy and start on this background. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is work on our sky. So I'm going to start, we can use the little brush for this guy. It'll serve its purpose. And all I'm going to do is just grab a tiny bit of gold. And I'm just going to take that little speck of gold and move it over to an area on my palette. You can see just a speck. And then I'm going to dip my brush in that water and take that little bit of water and work it in. I just want to create almost a watercolor that I'm going to use this for, to just sketch out the shape of my sun and that horizon line where that first top wave is going to meet the sea. So this right here is what we're going to sketch first. And if your canvas is a different size than mine, here's an easy way to break it down. Divide your canvas in half, vertically, between the top and the bottom, between the top and the bottom, halfway. So you can see our top wave, it's just a little less than halfway up again, maybe about a third. So we can eyeball that. Here's halfway up. And if I go about a third or just a little less than halfway to the top, that's where I'm going to be. So I'll make a little line. And I hope that you can see this, because this paint's going to be really thin. So let me show you. I'm just going to start on the left edge. You can go the other direction. And I'm just going to create 3 little bumps here. Just go right over those. Can you see? Oh, good, you can. And that's going to be that top wave. We're going to paint over everything, so this doesn't need to be perfect. Nobody's going to see it. And then we're going to come in, same thing with that watered down color, and right about in the center, we're going to put in a circle where just the very bottom is in coming down behind that top wave, down the horizon. And my circle is about the middle third of my canvas. So here's a third. It's a little less, just a little less than that. One thing you can do is, if making a circle freaks you out, go get a cup, go get a lid to a spaghetti sauce jar, find something that will work, put it on your canvas and trace it. Painting is not supposed to be stressful. So I don't want you losing your minds because you're trying to make the perfect circle. And if I've learned anything about circles, is the more you mess with them, the bigger they get. And you can't make them smaller. So go get something and use it. It's not cheating. It's called allocating resources, or making good use of your resources. Use the tools available to you. Okay. Now, once we've got that done, I want to switch over. I'm just going to drop that little guy in the water, and I'm switching over to that larger 1/2 inch brush. And I'm going to take some gold paint all by itself. This gold is very translucent, as you can see. So it's going to take a couple of thin layers to get my sun nice and shiny. So the first thing I do is I just sweep on a really thin layer. And you're going to see all those brush strokes. You can sort of smooth them out going edge to edge. But you just want a thin layer. If you put it on too thick, what's going to happen is it's going to take a really long time to dry. And it's still going to be translucent. It's just going to have a lot of texture to it. So put on a thin layer, let it dry. Trust the process. Once it's dried, we'll come back and do more to it. We're going to add a little red to some of that gold. Give us just a little bit of fire in that sun. But for now, we're going to go back and continue working on that sky. Still got my 1/2 inch brush. Oh, if you're not there yet, don't freak out. Go ahead and hit the pause button, and then you can just restart when you're ready to move along. But I promise you, you don't want to put a lot of paint on that, so don't fuss with it too much. Okay? All right, so let's start working on that sky. What we need to do now is mix a little bit of gold and white, and we're going to start working on our sky with that. We're also going to mix together a little bit of pink, and we'll interchange between the two of those to create a little bit more pink here on the horizon. As it works up, it becomes a little bit more of this buff color from the gold and the white. So I'm going to start by just taking a scoop of gold, and you can see it's not a very big scoop. As I usually say, it's about the size of a lima bean. And you can drop that off anywhere on your palette. And without cleaning my brush, I'll just sort of sweep off the excess there. I'm going to come over from the edge of my white, because I'm painting dirty, and I'm going to scoop an equal amount. I'm going to put the two of those together and swirl them around. One thing about working on plastic is your paint won't soak up like it does into the paper plates and dry up as quickly. So you'll be able to work with it a little bit longer. So we've got 1 part of gold and 1 part of white mixed here, and it gives you a soft, sort of creamy buff color. All right, now I'm going to come over and again take 1 little scoop, about the size of a lima bean, of white. My brush is dirty. There's a little gold in there. That's okay. I want it. And then I'm going to come over to the red and take tiny, let me show you, teeny tiny little speck, and mix that into the white. You can add a little bit more. We're going for about the shade of Pepto-Bismol. So a little bit more. There we go. Now we've got our pink. And since that's on our brush, let's start with it. So once you're mixed up, you're going to want to take your pink, and I'm going to come right along my line. I'm just overlapping a little. If the line is a little messy, I can always come back and clean it up when I put in that first wave. But you can see I'm using that the skinny edge of the brush up and down So as I pull it across horizontally, I get about a 1/2 inch wide line, which is what I want. I'm going to grab a little bit more, come to the other side of my sun, and come along that top wave just the same. Now, if you have a stretched canvas that's on a frame, you can go ahead and paint the side edges. We're doing this, and that'll create a gallery wrap. It's a very professional finish to your painting, and you won't have the white edges staring at you from the wall. All right, so now that we've come up, I still have a little paint and blah, blah, words are hard. I still have a little red paint, a little ball of it in my brush, and it's creating these streaks in the sky, but I kind of like them. I'm just gonna leave them. Just gonna bring this up a little bit more because I had some paint left in my brush. And then I'm gonna take a trip around the sun. You can see I'm just pulling that around. I don't need a lot. I don't want this to be too thick. See those streaks from that pink? Oh, look at how yummy that is. We swirl our way right around. And then I'm just gonna sweep off what's left. And I'm coming around and just blurring out that edge. What you want to do to blur that out though is wipe off your paintbrush. I just give it a little pinch and pull it, and that'll pull that excess paint out. Sort of like when you do your eyeshadow. You just want to blend that edge out and let it blur a little bit. Just sweeping. We're going to see texture and brush strokes in that paint, and that's okay. Now I'm going to come over and grab that gold and white mix. My brush is dirty. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to come over and pick up a little bit. And starting above that pink, I'm going to just sweep and wisp. And let me show you over here the stroke. I come down at an angle and go angle the other way. It's called a cross stroke. It looks like an X. Get a little dip of water there. Water helps acrylic paint move. So you can see as I wisp, this sort of taupe or beige gold color is just blending and fading right into that pink. That's what we want. Grabbing a little more. And as you can see, I'm dipping my brush in my water and then picking up my paint. And that way I've got a little bit of water, not too much. I'm not giving it a full-on dunk. Just dipping the tip there. And sweeping my way across. Let's take that little bit all the way across the top. All the way, there you go. There you go, all the way across. And now I can pick up some pink and blend some of that up into my sky. Those streaks are good. They're going to give your sky some movement and some texture, a little bit of depth. Bring a little more. I like that pink. Love that rose gold tone. And I'm just wisping, letting it streak. Keep in mind, the more you wisp across here and blend, the more likely it is that everything is just going to turn into one shade. So at that point, pretty happy with it. I might come in and grab just a tiny bit of gold by itself. There we go. Streak a little bit of that in. Streak a little bit of that in. That was really a mouthful to get out. Sort of slurred it. I'm sober. Okay. And just play with this guy until you are happy with the results. Final caution, the more you work it, the more it's all going to blend together. So at some point you have to quit. And I think I'm pretty satisfied there. Maybe just a little more pink over here. Let it be loose and messy. All right. So I'm going to rinse out my brush, and let me give you a little quick show on how to do that. I take my brush and just gently sweep across the bottom of my cup. I want to wiggle those bristles around, and that will loosen up those bristles and have them let go of that paint. You can even give it a little gentle bounce. You can tap that water, and then I like to drag those bristles like I'm scraping the spatula on the edge of the bowl, but really I'm a savage and I lick the spatula. I know you do too, don't judge me. But just drag that across and leave a little moisture in your bristles. Now, if your bristles are still really wet, you can always just give it a little gentle pat into your paper towel. Okay, next layer of gold. For this one, I'm going to grab a little bit of gold all by itself. And you can see this second layer is already starting to add a lot here. You're going to get much better coverage. You can even come in and add a third if you need or want to later. But I'm just taking my time around these edges, trying not to muck them up. Pull around and smooth that out. Oh, let's see, get that around. There we go. Now I want to do one final thing to my sun before we start our C. After I get that edge, sorry, I had to like hold my breath and think about it. Okay, I'm going to take a little tiny bit of gold, about a pea size amount, and move that over here. And then take the tiniest speck of red and mix those two together. And this color, I can come along and tap in and then just use my finger to tap that out. And I just randomly sort of splotch it around. Just stipple it on, just dab it on, and then take your finger and tap. Just gently tap your way close to that edge. Don't go over it. Just little gentle taps. The paint will lift up and have a little bit of a texture. That's okay. Oh, that's a funky little sun. I think it's not quite round on the top. Let me put a little, oh, clean your brush, Melissa. I'm not going to mess with it. What I want to do now is let it dry. And once it's completely dry, I can come in and put one more little layer of gold over it, and it'll get really nice and shiny. So, don't fiddle with that too much, and when you're ready, clean your big brush, and we're going to start working on those waves. All right, so it's time to start the ocean. I'm going to let my sky dry and come back and add that final layer of gold to the sun in just a little bit. But I've got my big 1/2-inch brush cleaned up and dried up. And I'm going to start making, excuse me, some teal. Now, let me pull this over for you for a second. Let's take a look at it. We can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different waves. You don't need 8. You can have 7. You can have 6. You can have 10. It's up to you. And what I'm going to do is start with one teal tone here. I'm going to mix equal parts of blue and green. And then from there, I can lighten it up with white. You can see this is a lighter shade. It goes from here to here to here to here. And then I can also use some blue by itself, maybe add a little bit more blue to teal or blue and white and teal. The point is we'll get all these different colors as we move along. So we're going to start by mixing that darkest base. Clean 1/2-inch brush. We're going to take a glob of green, and this is about the size of a green olive, not the black ones that you put on your fingers, but you know, the one you put in your martini. And then another scoop equal size of blue. And I'm going to put those together and just give them a swirl. Just an easy, light little swirl. And then what I'm going to do, I just scrape my brush off on the edge here. Get all that excess paint out. I'm going to take the little bit of teal that's in my brush and just put a tiny little dot on my palette and grab a little bit of white and mix that up. Let's switch brushes. That'll make things easier. Take a tiny dab of teal and we're going to lighten it up. Really lighten it up. Keep putting in white until you're happy that you've got a nice light sort of seafoam shade there. And I use this to draw in my waves. So the thing with the waves is I don't ever want them equal height. I like to alternate them or mix it up or really just let them be the way they are. But you also don't want let me grab it while I'm talking so I can show you. Some of them run almost parallel, but then you've got to mix it up. So as we draw these lines, you want your lines to peak and then move across. And then others are going to have peaks in different places. We don't want 6 or 7 of the same line. You've got to mix it up just a little bit. Okay, so I'm dipping into a little bit of water, working that into that really light teal. I've already got the top edge to my first one right here. That's the horizon. So I'm going to come down on the left edge about 1/2 inch and start to follow that line almost parallel, but maybe add in a few lumps and bumps. And it can be wider on the right edge than it is on the left. That helps create that sort of funky little pattern. We'll go back, get some more, come in, and again, pick where you're going, make a bump, create that next wave. So now I've got 1 wave and 2 waves, and those lines are all going just a little bit askew. If you want, you can get a pencil and draw these out, or even use a piece of colored chalk. All of those are good options. I should have told you that before you started. But you can do that. It'll take the edge off. Also have a sip of wine, that helps. Okay, so 1, 2, I'm just gonna keep making my waves and hills here. Every one turns out different. 1, 2, 3. Four. Just trying to be careful about making sure that no 2 are the same. They're all slightly different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I can do this. I got to make 2 more lines. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more line will give me 7 and 8. And these are getting a little bit shorter and more narrow as I come down, because presumably, they're getting closer to us. I'm running out of room. It's sort of like when you used to fill out actual cards and you'd start writing a message and you'd run out of room, have to cram 3 sentences into about 1 inch. That's what I'm experiencing right now. Yeah. But that's okay, because it plays into the sort of mismatch nature of our painting. All right, last line. There we go. So from top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Should have measured twice, cut once, but I felt like gambling, so that worked. All right, so get your lines in, and when you're ready, come on back and we'll start painting them in. All right, it's time to make some waves. So you can go in whatever order you like. I like to start with the darkest colors and work my way down, because as I'm diluting those colors and bringing that tone or shade down to a lighter one, it's a lot easier to go down than it is to go back up. So I'm going to start with the original teal that we mixed here with just some blue and some green. And I'm going to pick a wave somewhere here in the middle. Get a little bit of water, because you want a little bit of fluidity. We want that brush to just glide as we pull it across. Don't worry about those lines being perfect. We're going to go over them with our paint pen when they dry, and that will give us the opportunity to sort of correct any imperfections. Let me zoom in a little for you and see if you can get a little bit, there we go, a little bit of a better view. Oh, tight space here. Okay. So again, my paint's pretty watery. Oh, sorry about my sniffles. I have my spring allergies. Thank you very much. So much fun. Now, one thing I do, I'll show you how I do this. I take the edge of my brush and use that skinny edge to get that line. And just pull slowly and let it drag. And if the line changes shape, oh well, it's not the end of the world. We'll go with it. And then I just like to sort of lightly sweep my way through. Because this is a watered down version of our acrylic, we're going to see those brush strokes in that thin, transparent paint. And I want them to all go one direction. Because that'll help give me movement. Don't mess with it too much because you'll end up, like I just did, I'm going to come in and fix the edge of your wave. Okay. There we go. So I've got one. That's my darkest one. Now I'm going to take a little scoop of this mix, just move it over, and add some more blue to it. So now I'm going to have a teal that's much more blue-based than the green-based one I just used. A little bit of water to thin down that paint. And I'm going to come in right below it. And you can see the difference in the shade. I'm using that thin edge of the brush, just pulling it across, right up against that line. There we go. And then I'll work my way down, get that bottom edge. Remind you again, if you need to, put just a little bit of water in your brush. You don't want it drippy. What you do want is fluidity so that it just flows sort of inky-like, or like ink. There we go. And now I've got that top and bottom edge. I can just come through with these strokes, following that line. And I let them overlap as I work my way through these funky shapes. And I'm going to pull this up close so you can see what that does. Do you see those streaks that go from left to right? When that paint and a lot of movement, so that put a little motion in the ocean. All right. Now I think I'm going to take some blue all by itself. I rinsed out my brush. And I'm going to come in with just some dark blue and get this very bottom section. Remember, you can do this in whatever order you like. You can pick whatever shade of blue or teal or any variant in between. It's entirely up to you. It's your painting. It's your world, right? Isn't that what Bob Ross taught us all? It's your world. This is your ocean of dreams. Well, that sounded cheesy. Okay, there we go. So I've got my original green-based teal here. I've got some with a little more blue. I've got some blue all by itself. Now I think I'm going to take even more blue and add it to my teal to get the next one. And then I think I'm going to start getting a little bit lighter. And work it around however you like. Just remember, a little bit of water. The whole point is the technique. We're using a thin down acrylic paint so that we have that stroke that gives us that movement across the water. And we're just pulling from left to right or right to left. And we're using that skinny edge of the brush to try to get as clean a line as we can. Now, sometimes I have learned with painting with folks that it's easier to pull a line up or down. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You can always flip your canvas on its side Nothing's stopping you. And bring those strokes down. If that movement is easier for you and you trust your arm more, and your hand-eye coordination just seems to be better, do what works for you. Just remember, bring those swirls all the way through, those long strokes, so that we get that movement in our water. So now I'm going to start adding little bits of white and see what happens. Grabbed a dab of white, added it to what was left of that blue, green, teal. I think what I'm going to do is bring that one up. I'm going to skip a wave and bring that through here. But again, my instructions are like a buffet. Take what you want, leave what you don't. You can order your waves however you like. Light to dark, dark to light, entirely up to you. Just follow the rules of the technique. Skinny edge of the brush to get those clean lines. And then long strokes from edge to edge so that we keep that movement in our water. There we go. Let's see you go up and down. There we go. Just like that. Swirl, swirl. Bring a few extra strokes down to give it that movement. Let me show you again. You can see those different colors going through there, those streaks, and that's all the movement of that brush stroke for me. Ooh, I gotta stop for a moment and catch my breath. How about you? Let's see. Oh, wrong way. Trying to scoot you out. There we go. Technology. All right, so remember, stop, take moments to catch your breath. Go easy. I paint faster than you do. I'm a professional. It's my job. But just keep working your way up and down. I'm going to start adding some more white to those colors. So let me zoom back in so you can get a better view, and I'll show you what to do. Okay, my brush was in the water just to keep it safe, so I'm dragging those edges off. And I'm going to add some more white to the color I just used. And now I've got a really nice sort of light blue here. And I think I'm going to put that, I don't like that there. So I'm going to bring it up above one. I don't know why, I can't tell you. I'm not feeling it. I think I want something a little more green in there. That's the beauty about painting. You can just change your mind. Bringing this through, and if your paint sort of swirls together and you get different shades within your brush and they're moving through your waves, or as you come close to another line you get too close and it smudges, don't worry about it. Let those streaks come through. Those are happy accidents. They're going to give you some cool stuff. There we go. Usually everybody's trying to blend everything together. Today we are embracing the stripes. Ooh, that didn't come through all the way there. Okay. I was just fixing something on the other wave, I noticed. That was a little peculiar. Okay. There we go. So now, I said I wanted something a little bit more green. So I'm just going to grab some more of that original teal mix, or a little bit more green, whatever you want. And this is where you can just start playing with it. I added some more green and some more white, and now I have like a darker sea foam, and that's what I want here. I want that in this spot. See what's going on there? Okay. Oh, we are almost there. Once we get done with the sea, or with the waves, painting the waves, we'll clean our brush, add one more layer of gold to our sun, and then we've got to get this bad boy dry. We want this painting to be completely dry before we start that line work. Now, we've been using thin down paint. It's part of why we use a lighter application. because it gives us that texture, but it's got the added benefit of drying fairly quickly. And then we can just come in, you can even hit it with a blow dryer. But once it's completely dry, we're gonna lay this flat. And we're gonna come in and use that paint pen to create all those patterns. So it's super important that everything just be nice and dry. Nice and dry and ready to go. Okay. Uno más, one more. So just going even lighter. Grabbing a little bit more white. Getting that nice and light. And I'm going to do my final wave. Ooh, I want that even lighter. Let's get a little more. There we go. Okay. Yep, that'll do. That'll do, pig, that'll do. Skinny edge, last time I have to say this. Skinny edge to go across that line. Get that top edge. Get that bottom edge. Oh, did it, I did it. And one last set of long strokes from edge to edge to give me that movement. Just clean up any little funky bits. Now I'm not going to mess with this anymore because if I do, I am certainly bound to jack it up. So when you are through with your waves, trust yourself and just stop. Whoop, wrong direction. There we go. It's the hardest part about painting is knowing when to quit. So the more you fiddle with them, ooh, a bee just flew in here and I'm allergic to bees. But bees keep us fed, so I'm just gonna go, excuse me, Mr. Bee, please go away. All right, anywho, the more you mess with them, the more likely they are to get messed up. So leave them. If you come back and you decide that you really need to fiddle with them some more, you can. But a break always helps. And some distance. Stand back, stand up, step back, get a good view at it, see what's going on. When you're super close, it's like you're working with that bad side of the mirror. Everything's funky. So step back with me too. Let your eyes adjust, get some good perspective on it. All right, final step, and then we're taking a much needed break. I am worn out. Even I need a break from that. I'm gonna clean and dry my big brush really well, get all that glue out of it. And I'm just gonna come in with one final thin layer of gold and go right over everything. That darker gold with the red that we put in will still stand out. This is your opportunity here to just correct any funkiness in your circle of your sun. But again, don't mess it up too, don't mess with it too much. We don't want to take any chances. Okay. Good enough. So now I'm gonna quit, take a little break. So come back and see me and we will finish painting. Okay, welcome back. So your painting should be completely dry. You want to be able to move your hand across it without getting any paint off. And at that point, it should be safe to draw on with our paint pens. But before we even begin getting going with that, I want to show you, I'm going to use a Sharpie and a piece of paper and show you how we make these lines. And that way you can practice some patterns on your newsprint. Just use a pencil, pen, whatever. Don't use your paint pen, save that for the canvas. But practice working on these patterns. They're really fun. They're sort of like tangle lines to start with. So let me show you. First, I'm just going to create a little section of wave here. There's our wave. Can you see that? And what I like to do is just start at one corner and create another line and come down. And then I just keep going. Work my way across. Start at another point. Bring your pen down. And just keep creating these curves as you start to fill this space up. And it can be a little tricky if you're always worried about where they should go. But if you just keep making one little bump after the other, you end up with this sort of imperfect little set of tangles. Bring that closer. And it's not magic. It's really just making one curved line and then starting another one. So practice it on some paper before you begin. I'm going to show you just a couple of other little tricks that I did. One wave is just a bunch of dash lines, so let me put in another one. For that one, I just made little lines. Made them sort of follow the curve in different directions. Didn't matter if they were all perfectly even. The less even they are, the better off it is. Just keep bringing those until you're through. I also have some dots and bubbles, some open, or dots and circles and some open ones, some more dots, but you can put in as many patterns as you can think of. Now, before you start actually putting your patterns on, again, practice on some paper. And then I like to lay my canvas flat on the table. That's why I like to use flat canvas boards for these pieces, because they rest on the table so nicely, and then I can just draw on it like a piece of paper. So I'm gonna get my setup here reframed with my canvas flat down, and I'll be right back. We'll get going. You practice. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, you can't see me, but I promise I'm here. See, look, here's my hand. First thing I want to show you are our paint pens. You want to shake them. Shake them, they kind of gump up in there, and if you give them a good shake, you'll start to hear the little ball bearings in there rattle around. And when you get it, you're going to see that the very tip is still sort of this yellow original color. And you want to push it and hold it down. Oop, can you see? There we go. Push it and hold it down. On a paper, I'm using my finger so that you can see in the camera, until you start to see that paint flow. And at that point, you can use it just like a marker. One thing I recommend is always work away from what you just did. So if you start at the top, you want to work your way down. If you start at the bottom, you don't start at the bottom. You want to start at the top and work your way down. That way you're not pulling your hand across wet paint. So we've got our little Zentangle lines to start with. So I'm just lining my brush up right on that top edge like a marker, and I'm basically outlining my wave. And the first layer may be a little translucent. That's okay. I come back over and add a second one if you want to brighten it up. Once that paint starts flowing, then you really get some nice opacity. It gets less translucent. Just where, oh, I gotta take this bracelet off. That's making things a little funky. And I'm resting my hand on my canvas and just drawing that line across. So there's my top line, and now I'm coming along this bottom one. And this is where you put on a podcast or your favorite playlist or whatever, Bridgerton or whatever you're binging on Netflix. And you just sit there on the couch with this on your lap and zone out. I like it because it's sort of like the same idea of mandala, where you use that repetitive process, kind of helps you relax while you're painting, but without the technical perfection of it. These patterns embrace their imperfections. All right, top line is done, bottom line is done, and now I'm going to start those tangles. So I'm just going to come up with a curved line and come down. Pick up another curved line and come down. And I'm just going to keep repeating this process. Bringing those lines up and down. Ooh, that one's a little funky. It's a little big. I might divide him in half. Just keep bringing your curves. That pen makes a little squeak. Sorry if that's one of your things. Just keep working our way through. What I'm going to do for the purpose of this video is show you 2 of these waves and then a couple of the other different patterns that I use, and then let you do your own thing, because this could take you hours. Every once in a while I do come over to a scratch paper and just kind of jab my pen into it, get that paint start flowing again. My pens are well loved and well used. Yours are brand new, so you should be doing okay. Just keep working your way through. I'm just going back over these because my pen is finally flowing properly so that you can get a better view of them. And just take your time. Go easy. Just go easy. I love that expression. Story time. I was once at a wedding in New York City, and the wedding event was at the Waldorf Astoria, which is kind of a fancy hotel. And I was looking for a bodega, trying to figure out how to get to the market. And the doorman was this old Bahamian man. And after he gave me directions to the store, I said, "Hey man, thanks." And he told me, "Go easy, sister. Go easy." So whenever I start to have a moment where I'm freaking out, I think of that guy at the door telling me, "Go easy, sister. Go easy." Calms me down. I'm just taking my time bringing these lines in. There's no perfect place for any one of them. Work that pen again if you need to. Sorry about the banging and the sniffling. It's that sort of day today. There we go. And just like that, we've got those Zentangle lines. Let me pull that up a little more so you can get a better view. There you go. Now when you're ready, come on back and I'm going to show you how to do the next little set, which are the dashes. Okay, let's do the next wave with another pattern, these fun little dashes. I'm going to get that bottom line of this wave outlined. I missed the mark there, don't care. If I go back and try to fix it, that line will be too thick, but it's not really going to matter in the end. Got to be careful, I did that bottom line first, so I don't want to work over it too much. But now I'm just coming in and making these little dashes. And just staggering them, following this direction of the wave. They don't all have to be the same length. They don't all have to be in the same order. I just try to stagger them throughout, move my way along. This little zip, dash, zip. Work your way along until you're happy with it. Those went much quicker. There we go, you can see. Okay. So you can see we're just working our way down. I'm going to push this up just a little bit. Okay, our next wave, we've got circles. So for circles, and that'll be the same here, I just draw little circles and don't worry about them being perfect. And I try to alternate. Sometimes I'll do a couple of big ones, a couple of small ones. Try to mix things up. And they're not perfect. They're nowhere near perfect, and I don't care. Sometimes I put a half of one up against a line there if I'm not really sure how to fit something. Just go through, put them all in. A little squeaky paint pen noise. All different sizes. I tend to have the same 2 sizes and just sort of work them around. And now I can just come in and fill them in. I give a little tap to move that paint pen, get that good flow going, and then swirl it out. Tap, tap, tap. Get that little tiny drop there and just swirl it out. You can leave them open, but I've got another row of wave that I'm going to leave the bubbles open on. So for this one, I'm going to fill them in. It's nice and easy. It's like coloring. And remember, you're super close, so everything looks a little funky, but when you hold this back, it's going to look awesome. So work your way through. When it's hanging on the wall, it's going to look just lovely, I promise. All right, I'm going to keep filling mine in. You fill yours in, and I'll see you again in a minute. We'll put that bottom line on. Okay, so that row is in, and now I'm just going to come through and outline the bottom edge of that wave. And sometimes I hit the bottom edge of a circle and cut it off a little. That's okay. Just moves things around for you. Now the next wave is going to be another Zentangle. Then you can see we've got some open circles and dots and just some dots. So let's do another Zentangle. I'll get you through the open waves and dots, and then I'm just going to let you finish this off without me chirping at you. Okay, so remember, for our waves, we're just going to, for our little Zentangle lines, we're just going to keep making more curved lines. And some of them are going to match, and others aren't. And every time I do these, they turn out a little bit different. This one, I'm kind of leaving them spaced a little wider apart. Sort of like it's a bigger wave. Just keep working your way. I'm hitting that bottom line now because I'm getting really close to it. I kind of need it to be able to see where to take my little tangles here. Just bringing those lines through. There we go. All right. We're halfway done. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more to go. So when you're ready, come on back and I'll show you the open circles with the dots. Okay, We did circles up here, so we can do them again. Just circles in different sizes. This time, I'm gonna leave a little bit more room. And that way I can come in and add some dots. And those dots will help fill in those open areas for me. Keep working your way around. Little dots, dots, dots. Just like that. Dots, dots, dots. Excuse me, circles. And now I can just come through and do little taps. Just one little tap. Hit it and quit it. Just a quick tappity tap. Like Hannah on Bread Talk. Tap, tap. If y'all are on TikTok and you don't know Hannah Bread Talk, you should go see her. She makes sourdough bread, and it is fantastic to watch. Okay. There we go. There's my dots. Now I can come in and just put in this bottom edge, outline that. So now we can repeat any of those, or you can introduce a new pattern of your own. I'm going to keep working. I'll be back in just a few minutes when I make way down to the bottom. Have fun. All right, did you guys survive all of those patterns? I hope you're nice and relaxed after making all of those tangles and dots, and it's just sort of like meditating, you know? You get to relax and do a doodle and you end up with a pretty grown-up piece looking art. So let's take the tape off and see how it looks, huh? Sorry, I kicked the camera. All right, so you are using a flat canvas board. I use canvas paper because otherwise I'd end up with a lot of canvases and boards. So with the paper, it's a lot easier to store, and then I can, you know, frame them or give them away. But I create a lot of the same piece of art multiple times, so I find that this is just less wasteful. And then I can paint over it and reuse it for future projects. And I just love peeling that tape off. Ah, you get that beautiful crisp edge. Oh, hold on here. Let's get that, there we go. Plus, it's just super satisfying. Look at that. Oh, so fantastic. So I got a little bit of a mess there. That's not too bad. I can just take my paint pen and go right over it. Nobody will ever know. No harm, no foul. Don't forget to sign your piece. Your paint pen's a great way to do that. You can use a Sharpie, put your signature down on there. Own that. You worked hard on it. You should be proud of it. I hope it looks fantastic. Send me pictures. You guys need to send me more pictures of your pieces. I'm painting all by myself down here in my basement studio, and I don't know what you're doing. I want to see. So let's compare. Let's look at the original. Here's the original. There's our new piece. Differences. Still a very similar product. It just has your own stamp on it every time you redo it. You know, you never swim in the same river twice, and you never create the same painting twice. It's always a little bit different. So I hope you guys had fun. It was great to paint with you. Please pick out another project or video on my website and come back and paint with me soon. And take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll see you soon. Be well.